Attributes. They define what a role-playing game is, in my opinion. Without attributes, your character doesn't have form or function within the fantasy or sci-fi world that they exist. It defines what your character can do, what they can't do, their strengths, their weaknesses. And this is why I love attributes. Starting with the very first set of attributes I ever got introduced to, the Fighting Fantasy series by Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone, The Warlock of Firetop Mountain. And it was a fantastic choose-your-own-adventure book. 3 attributes, really: skill, stamina, and luck. And they defined how I viewed role-playing games right early on in my youth. And it was fantastic. It did what it needed to do. You didn't need to define your character much more than just those 3 attributes. The set of adventures I loved the most being the Crown of Sorcery and the 4 books therein. However, a special shout out to the Cretan Chronicles and their attributes. A little bit more complicated with a lot more numbers, but it was easing me into. And that is the basic rules of D&D, the red box set. And this was my first real taste of attributes and how they could define your character. Rolling and hoping for those high numbers, at least a 13, if not higher, getting that rare 18. Wow, the feeling that would inspire. After playing in a lot of groups and after playing basic D&D for some time, some of the issues begin to come up. Your attributes, there was this big dead zone, 9 to 12. Any roll in that area was no adjustment, you were average. And then you would either need to be exceptionally unlucky or very, very lucky to get a bonus. But still, they bring a smile to my face thinking of those attributes. And they paved the way to when I was introduced first of all to first and then really got my teeth into second edition. And oh, wow, their attributes were very different. We're talking now lots of different little adjustments here and there, not just one number that affected a few things, but lots of numbers that affect various things, from your chance to hit, to your damage, to using missile weapons, to gaining extra hit points, to extra languages that you know at first level, to a magic defense that could either make your mind more susceptible or more resistant to illusions and charms, to things like how many henchmen you can have, their loyalty and their reactions to you. There were a lot that you could do with these attributes, but again, one of the things that really irked me about them is you had these big dead zones in the middle. Just looking at dexterity, you have 2 characters, one with a 7 dexterity, should be clumsy as anything, and one with a 14 dexterity. You'd think quite dexterous, given 18 is typically your highest, 19 if you've got a racial modifier. And yet they were both considered identical. When it came to the modifiers you got, I know skills are slightly different, and I will have a love letter to skills coming out later. But for attributes, yes, you had this big dead zone and it never sat well with me. Of course, second edition wasn't the only game I played at the time. Earthdawn had its own attributes. So did Torg, a really interesting game system. Star Wars, the D6 version, and of course Shadowrun. These are just a few of the games I had with all their different attribute systems and how they affected the game, and I liked all of them. Equally, they were fantastic systems, but I always returned back to Dungeons and Dragons. And when 3rd edition, 3.5 came out, the attributes changed considerably. The numbers were still there, 3 to 18 when you roll your attributes modified by your race, but now the banded maximum of 25 was gone. And what you could do is you could just keep going up and up and up. You gained 5 additional attribute points as you leveled, and then you had magic items that increased your attributes further, and some of them stacked with each other. Oh my god, by the time you were high level, geez, I could have a 30, a 32, 34, 36 attribute. Look at those big numbers, and now they're now adding to other big numbers, and whoa, look at these numbers that I have in front of my character. And they were too much. The character kind of lost what it was about. You know, you had an 18 strength, you should be thinking, oh, I'm a really strong character. You know, Conan's probably just a little bit stronger than me, but I'm in that kind of category. And instead, you're just there looking, going, you know, I want a 22, I want a 24, I want this item, I want that item, I want to get up to that 30, I want a plus 10. The attributes were great, and filling in that dead zone in the middle was fantastic. but it lacked something. From first level, your character didn't feel like a completed character. These were just your starting attributes. And I do love the way that your attributes could increase as you leveled, but there was something missing. You were always striving for that really big number, so you had another big number. Your attack bonuses were big numbers, your saving throws, your skills, everything was a big number added to another big number, and the maths began to just overwhelm. The numbers were too big, and you lost sight of exactly what your character was. Attributes are there to define your character, to use a phrase, to provide informed roleplay. I know some people consider it metagaming, but if you look at your character sheet and you can see that your strength is an 18 and you know that's pretty much the maximum you can get to, you will automatically, subconsciously even begin to roleplay your character as a strong character. You're at the peak of your fitness. Your strength is up there alongside ogres and other strong creatures. You begin to roleplay your character like that. If your intelligence is low, you begin to naturally roleplay your character, shying away from using any intelligence-based skills, not wanting to use any intelligence-based roles. When those attributes can be modified so quickly, when items can really boost them much, much further, your character begins to lose definition. I missed having a well-defined character where the attributes that you rolled could only go up maybe a little bit. They were very, very defined, and that would inform the way I role-played the character. We're then jumping ahead to 5th edition, and they brought that in many respects. Your attributes could only go up to 20, even with increases. Racial modifiers could be applied, but again, they hit that 20 gap. There were ways of potentially getting up to 22, and then some items like giant bow potion, strengths and girdles, that could take you higher, but they were rare. We were back now to a well-defined set of attributes that had an array that had a perceivable maximum. And this then began to inspire the roleplay aspect of the character. Your character began to feel a bit more defined again. If you had an 18 strength, you felt strong. If you only had a 10 intelligence, you were average. You had neither a bonus nor a penalty. And these bonuses and penalties were then applied and to skills with your proficiency bonus. The character's attributes worked and they were defined, and you would hit your theoretical maximum. But there was something else that began to play on my mind, something else that I began to think of, and it was the modifier number, the bonus or the penalty. And it was always applied to another number, and it felt like the attribute was a secondary effect. It didn't feel front and center, and this is really, I think, where my love letter to attributes go. Attributes should define your character. They should be the thing that, when you glance at your character sheet, they inspire you with a vision of what your character's like. Are they strong? Are they weak? Are they clumsy? Are they tough? Are they charismatic? Do they have a strength of personality? And a simple number should inspire you, should inform your roleplay. And this really brought me to how we approached attributes in Untold Destiny. And it was to get rid of the negatives, your modifier from your attribute. And I've kept to the classic attribute array, 3 to 18. They are classic and they work, and I love them. And I think a lot of people who come from that background, they will look at those numbers and immediately conjure an image of what those numbers mean. But what I did is I got rid of the negatives. I felt the negatives would make you look at the attribute and think, no, it needs to be applied to something. And instead you go from +0 all the way up to typically +10 if you're a race that has a bonus to that attribute. Otherwise your maximum is 18 or 16 for certain races that have penalties to their attribute. But a human could get to an 18 in every attribute potentially, which is a +9 bonus. You do anything using that attribute, be it attacking or making a save or anything like that. You roll your d20s and you add that attribute value. And then I did like the way that you had other additional bonuses. So for example, your damage comes from potentially strength or dexterity. The focus spells, the number of spells you can keep running, and your spell points come from your casting attribute, wisdom or intelligence. And then your starting hit points from constitution. It seems like a big number, but from this point on, the only thing you get is your hit dice being added as you level, a smaller number. Your hit points might start bigger, but it means at first level you can actually enjoy that level. You don't feel like one lucky hit or crit is going to take you out and you're rolling up a new character. You feel like a completed character. And again, this was to inspire, inform the role play of your character. You felt like your character had experience. They had lived, they had a background, and they could go out into the world feeling competent, feeling rounded. Attributes. I love them. And I think the way they work in Untold Destiny just makes them leap off the page. When you're doing something, your attribute informs your roleplay, and instantly you're beginning to either shy away from the things you're weak at or jump ahead for the things that you're good at. Attributes. This is my love letter to you. Without you, what would role-playing games be?